Each and every day, enjoy the Simple Six menu at Subway, an entire made-for-you meal featuring one of 6 inch sandwiches like the Italian BMT or Black Forest ham, with any bag of chips and a 21-ounce drink, all for only $6. Subway. Eat fresh.
The B.S. Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects. The B.S. Report. The B.S. Report with Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the B.S. Report, taping this on a Monday morning Pacific Coast time. Just finished round 2 NFL playoffs, and nothing wacky happened for the first time since 2004. All 4 betting favorites advanced. Cousin Sal, we were on the phone, I think, on Thursday or Friday, and you said, hey, at least every year there's one underdog that wins outright. We should just do a pyramid scheme. Just bet the underdog money line each game. Please tell me you didn't actually do that.
No, I didn't actually do that, but I didn't do the other thing too, which I've been wanting to do for 10 years, is parlay all the favorites. I feel like if we give that advice out to people, then they turn into us, and that's a bad thing. But for once, all 4 favorites won. And it's ridiculous. I mean, I always envisioned winning $50,000 when that happened, but no, we shied away.
People were, it's been a terrible year for me gambling-wise, even though I did pretty well this weekend. But people were saying that I single-handedly swayed the favorites this week because I was saying the one thing nobody's allowed to do this weekend is do a 3-team teaser, which of course won in every single direction if you did it. Actually, no, not in the Colts direction.
Not in the Colts. Panthers either. They didn't cover they lost by 13.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
well, for the favorites, if you did any of the 4 favorites in a tease, you won.
Right.
And so even when I give that kind of advice, I can't win.
No, I know.
It's been a lost year, so.
What are you going to do?
I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about it.
We're left with, and I didn't think the games were too exciting yesterday, but I don't care. We're left with the 4 best teams, 55 wins between them. And, that's all I really want is the 4 best teams. I'll take the upsets in the regular season. Actually, I'd like the top 3 best teams and the 29th best team, my Dallas Cowboys, playing in the Final Four. But this is cool. I think this is as good as you can ask for.
Now, tell me I'm crazy because I picked the Saints to win.
Yeah.
If they played that game 10 times, how many times did the Saints win?
I don't know. What do you think? You think 6?
I really thought that was a fluky game. Yeah. And, they comes out of the gate, the guy has a 16-yard punt, right? He just muffs the punt. It gives them an easy field goal. Mm-hmm. Then they come down, terrible sequence. Once they got first down, I think like around the 30, ends up with the 45-yard missed field goal into the wind.
Right.
Then Ingram fumbles on his own 30. And I know all this is all part of a bigger picture, which is the sloppier team doesn't deserve to win, especially on the road. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really feel like the Seahawks offense did anything that game. I mean, Marshawn Lynch ran the ball pretty well, but, it really felt like the Saints defense did a nice job. And as that game went along, anytime it wasn't raining, it felt like Breeze could throw the ball anytime the rain calmed down. And I don't know. I felt like those teams were really close. And as it turned out, when I did my column, the Saints were getting 7.5. The line moved to 9.5 and then settled back down at 8.5. Yeah. So actually the Saints covered.
Well, and I wrote about this in the run and shoot around.
Yes, you did.
Well, I love this. I had the Seahawks early in the week. I took them at minus 7.5, and then when I woke up Saturday and saw they were 9.5, I was so giddy. I wanted to tell my family, but I'm like, they won't understand. And then then it's a weird thing when they're up by 15. Am I crazy to root for the Saints to score? Like, I have them by 7.5, Seattle. I'm like, I want this to be close. I want the people who bet Seattle on Saturday to lose, but I want to win. So it's a real sickness to want to be right this much, more than rich. But it was a weird game, and I am also not very impressed with Russell Hustle, Man Muscle Wilson, your boy, 9 for 18, 103 yards. I feel like even this last month, they've just been very patient and wait for the defense to come up big, and they get 1 or 2 big plays and win a game. But
they don't really they don't really have any. It's weird because they made a lot of big plays during the season. Mm-hmm. But when you watch a game like that game on Saturday, like I really felt like they weren't going to get any big plays, especially when Percy Harvin came out. But,
well, when you start dealing with who's taking the wind in the first quarter and the third quarter and who's hearing, taking timeouts when you don't need to avoid, delay the games because that 12th man, I think, could they be relying on the 12th man a little too much, this Seattle team?
No question. And I felt like, the Seahawks scored 23 points. You should win if you're the Saints.
Yeah.
And especially the last TD was the garbage time TD, and even though they came back and ended up scoring with 5, but the TD by what's his face Lynch with 2:40 left in the game,
right?
23-8. But at that point, 31-yard run, you're stacking the line, all that stuff.
Well, and I'm also thinking, what were you thinking when Peyton went for the 48-yard field goal? I know it's weird to punt from the 31, but
I hated it.
Would you have punted because it was 4th and too long, right? It was 4th and double digits.
I just hated it. There was no way that was going in.
Yeah.
He wasn't making that in the wind. Shane Graham, the guy was on the waiver wire 3 weeks ago. I thought that was terrible. I don't know if I would have gone for it or gone for maybe like a jump ball with Jimmy Graham, try to get a pass interference, but I just felt like that had a 0% chance of going in. Maybe a little pooch punt.
I would not have been against the punt there. And maybe a lot of people would have been, but I think when your defense is playing this well, and I had the same problem with Carolina against San Francisco. I think you go for it on 4th down, go with the 1, like that worked. I know they didn't get in, but they had such good field position that they scored right away. I think you go for it again. I know it's like from the 1.5 this time, but if you're up 14-6 on the Niners, and I don't, talk about momentum, you don't believe in it. There's definitely a confidence that is gone if you go up 14-6, or if you leave them at the 1-yard line down 7-6.
Yeah, I mean, they got shut out in the first half, which is a disaster.
The second half, you mean?
No, the Saints. They didn't score in the first half.
I thought you were Panthers. All right,
but the Seahawks only had 13 first downs in the whole game.
Yeah.
I don't know. If I'm a Saints fan, that game bugs me. It reminded me a little bit of in 2005 when the Pats were going for the three-peat, and they just played this game in Denver where everything went wrong.
Right.
And just one thing after, it wasn't their day. Like, it was clearly Denver was better on that day, but I always feel like if we'd played that game 10 times, I feel like the Pats would have won in 5 or 6 of them.
But, I mean,
the other three games, I feel like the right team won.
Yeah, we're not on the field, and we don't know, but could it be that these Saints, a lot of the players felt bullied? Like, you read Peter King and you see, before the pregame stuff, and one of the Saints' balls went into the Seahawks side of the field, and the Seahawks didn't give it back. It was really like playground talk again, and Jimmy Graham seemed intimidated, and, Sproles got lit up in the first quarter. You could see, maybe these guys didn't want to play so hard, but you don't want to think that about. Yeah,
I felt like that Saints team that showed up for that Seattle game was the team that I thought was going to show up for the Philly game. Mm-hmm. And I guess Philly's defense just wasn't good enough to kind of knock them into whatever happened. But I felt like the other 3 teams clearly should have won. Like, even the Chargers game, come on. That game was 24-0? It was, right?
No, it was 17-0.
17-0. It was 24-7. I mean, it's unbelievable that it even got to the point where there was a scary 3rd and 17 for Denver. Mm-hmm. But Pat's Colts, you just knew.
Yeah.
Even though, it was weird. We were only up 7 with 13 minutes left. It felt like we were up by 30 the whole game, but we really weren't.
Well, to me, the turning point, again, another goal line situation was that the snap on the punt goes too high. Yeah. The punter, you have no choice in that situation. If that ball's by the goal line, you kick it out of the end zone as fast as you can. I mean, you shouldn't even be allowed to do that, but you can. Yep. So get the safety. Don't get tackled at the 1. And he didn't. I mean, he still fumbled it, and then luckily went through the end zone. I didn't think Deerdorf and Gummel did a great job, nailing home the point that the Colts should have had the ball 1st and goal at the 1. And then they get a field goal. So then it was like 21-15 or something weird when it could have been like 21-17 or 18. So I thought that was big.
it just felt like the Pats were better.
Yeah.
I was never really, I wasn't sweating that one out. The Denver game, the only thing that got interesting was that 3rd and 17.
Right.
And then I don't know what San Diego was doing in that play. I know they had some guys out. I just don't understand how Demaryius Thomas ends up being wide open.
Yeah, I think it was Julius Thomas, but yeah.
Julius Thomas. I don't understand how either Thomas is open.
It definitely wasn't Reggie Cobb, but that was just a great Manning play. And I thought he won that game with his cadences, drawing San Diego offside.
Omaha hut.
Are we going to find out that's just another ruse? He's doing another endorsement for Omaha Steaks. We're going to find out. He mentions Bud Light in the press conference. This guy can't stop.
I got to say, every time he said Omaha, they hiked the ball within like a half a second after that. It seemed like by the third quarter, you hear Omaha, you're just ready to go. Half second later.
My 6-year-old can figure it out at home, yeah.
You know, Manning did make a couple great plays, though, down the stretch, and it would have been really, really interesting if he overthrew Thomas on that 3rd and 17. Or if it was a duck, or if it got tipped, and then San Diego comes down and scores, then they get the coin toss and OT, and then all of a sudden everybody's pointing at that 3rd and 17 for the rest of Manning's
I know you're
life.
rooting for San Diego because you wanted the home game, but I started to feel sick for Peyton Manning a little bit. So, boy.
Really?
I was like, they need it's 2:50 left. I'm like, they need 3 first downs. They can't even get 1 first down. How are they going to do this? But San Diego, I looked at the play-by-play, they didn't throw the ball downfield. And I'm talking like 8 yards downfield until 9:35 of the third quarter when, Rivers went for Ladarius Green. It was incomplete. But, and I'm all for not getting in a shootout with Denver. In Denver, I understand. But you got to take their confidence away. You got to – these ticky-tack, runs to Woodhead, 3-yard runs, they weren't going to do anything. And before you know it, you're down 14-0. Really should have been 21-0 at the half, and it was just too much.
I watched the games with my dad yesterday.
Yeah.
My dad had a couple interesting revelations. One is that he was rooting against Carolina because, and I quote, I hate the Harbaugh brothers. Just a random hot sports take from my dad, just
nice.
Anti-Harbaughs. But he was so mad because he really wanted San Diego to win for the Pats. My dad doesn't gamble. He doesn't do any of that stuff. He's just he watches it through the Patriots lens.
We got to get him gambling somehow.
Well, he just all he cares about is the Pats.
Yeah.
So he was so upset by San Diego's game plan that whole game.
Yeah.
It was like I wish they could have cut to him like they cut to Mike Pereira.
Yeah.
And just been like, Dr. Bill, how do you feel about San Diego's game plan? I don't know what they're doing. Of course, Denver knows they're going to run the ball. What are they doing?
Right.
And then when they started throwing the ball and having success with it, it made him even angrier.
You have a guy, Keenan Allen, but your best 3 guys on him, they can't cover him. And all of a sudden, there he is. Look at this fourth quarter by Keenan Allen. Like, where was this all game?
It does feel like San Diego. I'm sure they would do this if they could again, but if they had just come out and said, you know what, we're pushing the pace, no huddle, we're throwing the ball, we want to try to win this 41-38.
Right.
And instead they used the Giants Super Bowl 42 game plan,
right,
which I actually thought, going into the game was like, hey, this might work, but then you watch how easily it was for them to throw the ball. When did Chris Harris get hurt, though? Maybe that's one of the reasons it became easier.
Yeah, but it was a little later. Yeah.
That's a big one. Torn ACL.
The pass rush was pretty good for Denver, yeah. Yeah, that's a big injury for Denver. That's good for you.
It's good for us, but, I mean, Jesus, we just keep losing guys. We put spikes on the IR for God knows what reason. And then this Jamie Collins came in, had the best game of his season.
Yeah. Well, I read something that said Grantland's Bill Simmons says, I screwed it up. Jamie Collins is the best linebacker since Saving Private Ryan.
He's the most extraordinary linebacker since Teddy Bruschi and Saving Private Ryan.
I only have like 6 more of those, so don't worry about it.
Let's do the lines.
All right.
So Denver is hosting the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
At 3:00 East Coast time.
Can you imagine? This is the early game. This is
I was shocked.
There's another great game after this, but they had to do it because Seattle is the Western more team. I mean, these times were set weeks ago, so I don't know how they figured it out.
I always thought it was because they have they alternate CBS and Fox for who gets the later game.
That could be
it's hard to think that Denver, New England in primetime would have gotten anything other than the biggest rating in the history of non-Super Bowls.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So if you're Fox, who has the Super Bowl, what your four possibilities? Your number one is Denver, San Fran.
I like it. This is an annual BS Report tradition where we figure this out.
That's right. Okay.
I think Manning and anybody is your number one.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do. I think he's the most famous football player, and him trying to get his second one and finishing off the season where everybody 2 years ago looked like he might not ever play again. Now he's back and he wins the second one, and it's like the exclamation point on one of the great careers of all time.
If I'm Fox, and I'm not positive about markets and ratings and everything, I like New England, San Francisco better than Denver, Seattle. I like Denver, San Fran, number one. Then I like
Seattle. Anyone is your worst case scenario. I think. Because I just don't think the public knows the Seahawks that well.
Right.
I think the Niners have the pedigree because the 80s and 90s.
And
Jim
you could do a lot
Harbaugh.
with Kaepernick and
they were in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah. People are used to them now.
Yeah, though, New England versus San Francisco would be interesting because that was Brady's team growing up.
Yeah.
The 4 Super Bowls would pass Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And then Harbaugh versus Belichick. West Coast, East Coast.
I think that's great. I actually think that's second best case scenario for Fox.
Well, New England, Seattle would be fun just because of the Pete Carroll Patriots stuff would be entertaining. The
Definitely.
Russell Wilson, Brady and Russell Wilson, like Russell Wilson's this generation's Brady, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Although, if we get Seattle, we get a lot of Richard Sherman.
Oh, yeah.
We have to hear about, oh, no, he's really a great guy. He's so thoughtful.
Yeah.
Get to hear that for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
it's just on the field where he's the biggest a-hole on the planet.
There were guys, he didn't play in that Carolina-San Francisco game, but that I can't imagine what we're to expect with round 3 of San Fran, Seattle. That Carolina-San Francisco game, there was hard hits, and if you caught the ball, you would get screamed at for 30 seconds and maybe headbutted every play. It wasn't even worth it to catch it.
Were you surprised that Troy Aikman, who's never had a controversial opinion on anything, was so upset at Anquan Boldin?
I was surprised. He didn't like the first hit, right?
He didn't like all the yapping with Anquan Boldin. It's like, you played with Michael Irvin for 10 years. You won 3 Super Bowls with the guy who invented this.
Yeah.
And now you're mad at Anquan Boldin?
Well, the other thing is, I wouldn't. That's a good point. And if I'm him, I don't question any helmet-to-helmet hit ever when I'm in that announcing booth. He's lucky he's got his mind to even call a 3-hour game.
You know what? Carolina played like a team that was too fired up and hadn't been there before. Rivera said today he thought they lost their composure a few times. But they definitely were a little over the top. And the other thing that I think we saw the same thing with Steve Smith and Ryan Matthews. These guys who are playing hurt, they get that shot right before the game.
Yeah.
And they're great for an hour, and then it wears off.
Right.
And as soon as Steve Smith, as soon as his knee started to hurt again, that was it for the Panthers. I thought they should have gone for it on 4th down.
Which time?
I really did. Listen. It's so hard for them.
At the 1 yard line, you mean?
The
right?
second time.
Yeah, of course. You do it the first time. You do it the second time. Yeah.
It's so hard for them to score, and I had a stat in my column on Friday about how they did against the teams that won 10 or more games and were in the top 12 for DVOA in Football Outsiders.
Yeah.
And they had scored like 50 points in 5 games against those teams. Like it's just going to be near impossible for them to get to 20 points.
Right.
I just think you have to go for it because you're not going to beat the Niners scoring 13 points. And then on top of it, how bad were those plays?
Exactly. Well, you can't go on and on about Cam Newton, how he's a savior, and not have one play for him down at the goal line. And the first time, Dilfer was right. I mean, you've seen ESPN countdown. You got to go over the top. You don't do the quarterback sneak trying to dig in there from the bottom. But there's got to be some bootleg. There's got to be something to Olsen, some tight end release, something that gets you. You have to have a play from the 1.5 yard line.
Where's the play I always call for? My favorite play in video games.
Bootleg? What? Oh.
No, the fake handoff to the right. Everybody in the entire line goes to the right, and then the backup tight end who's on the left side, he's blocking. He's releasing.
He releases, yeah.
And the throw to the other side, like, I guess that's what happens when Mike Shula is your offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But they ran, I think, 7 plays inside the 5-yard line or something. They didn't get any of them into the end zone. That's embarrassing.
That's bad news. That's bad.
And then the other thing, you saw what happened when they got stopped, but then the Niners had the ball on the 1. Kaepernick had to do a sneak just to buy them 2 more yards. They end up punting. All of a sudden, Carolina has the ball back in the 30. Like, you're pinning them into their own end zone. Yeah.
Look, your odds of a holding call in the end zone. I mean, this is a fierce defensive battle.
Yeah.
Is as good as, as anything else. Instead of 3, you might get 2 there. So I just think a field goal is a bad option there. I
just didn't like it when it happened. It's not even like hindsight. It's just
definitely.
like, man, you got to punch this in because you're down inside the 1 twice and you don't get a touchdown either time. The other team just gets too much confidence from that. Now they just feel like they own you.
Yeah.
And also, like, Cam Newton is probably the best quarterback to have at the 1-yard line.
He won the national championship that way, in a shotgun formation from the 1. He took it from the sticks and figured out a way to get in.
Spread it out 6 straight times with 4 receivers.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's getting in there on one of them.
Yeah. I thought that was unfortunately the worst coaching decision of the weekend.
Yeah, it's too bad. They weren't good enough, though. I think that team, when you really can't throw the ball, like the Steve Smith thing, I think if he had been healthy, that might have made a difference. That might have swung it by 7 points or whatever. And once Kaepernick's like one of those basketball teams that he's like the Clippers. If he's up 10, it's over.
Right.
Once he gets some confidence.
And San Fran's defense, I think, gets better as it goes along, too. It's one of the things. A different guy makes a big play.
You agree with me that San Francisco's the best team? I don't know if they're going to win the Super Bowl, but they're the best team.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I think they have if they did Green Bay, Carolina, Seattle back to back on the road, that is
definitely
just insane. I don't think any other team in the league could do that.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. It is impressive. Going into this week 20, we're 9-1 against each other, picking the spreads.
Yeah, unfortunately, I saw the Pats line and I was way off.
Yeah, well, no, not way off. Not the case. New England at Denver opened a lot of places at 7. Denver -7. Before the game even ended, we texted or emailed each other what we thought the lines would be, but no one thought 7. I said 5.5. You said 4.5. It has since gone down to 5, so we split it.
Oh, we split it.
We split that one.
See, I thought that should be a Vegas zone, so I'm glad I stuck to my guns.
Well, no one's taking Denver at 7. Even if you like them, you're going to wait till that drops, right? It's not going to go higher.
Let's see, the Patriots have played 25 playoff games now.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the most they've ever been underdogs were in 2001. I think they were getting like 13 in Pittsburgh and 13.5 or 14 against the Rams.
Right.
Since then, we were underdogs against the Colts one of those years, either 03 or 04. I remember the Colts were laying points in Foxborough one of those times.
The Colts were favored in Foxborough. Oh, yeah, that's right. They were, yeah.
They were getting 4.5 in San Diego one time.
Mm-hmm. The year they lost to the Colts, when the Colts played the Bears in the Super Bowl, was that?
We were getting points that year. I think that was like, that might have been like 3 or 3.5.
That was the highest, yeah.
The Belichick Brady, it's been 12 years since they've ever been a touchdown underdog coming out of the gate.
Yeah.
So
and
it feels like the line should be 4.
In those 12 years, did you ever have the best running back in the playoffs? Somehow you ended up with the top rusher in the league.
He's a beast.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that they've reinvented this team as the season went along.
Yep.
You know?
He deserves all the accolades. I'll give it to him. Belichick and Brady.
We have
8 out
a
of 12
running football
seasons.
team.
Yeah. I mean, I used to be like, well, they're playing a mostly weak division, so to rack up 12 wins and then win one playoff game makes sense that they'd go to the Final Four. But no, this is spectacular. What
I'll tell you another thing about Tom Brady. Doesn't care who scores the touchdowns, unlike his counterpart in Denver.
Yeah, that's right.
Peyton Manning has his running backs take him all the way down the field, but inside the 5, it's touchdown time for him.
Well, let me tell you
Thanks
this.
for getting us here, guys. I'm going to be throwing the touchdown now.
That offensive line beat up the Colts, and so did Dan. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Both these offensive lines manhandle their opponents. That's all I look at is who's in the trenches. You asked me, I couldn't even tell you who's the quarterback of these teams. I couldn't even tell you.
Right.
I look at who's in the trenches.
You stare at the trenches.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you think Peyton Manning, it's a lot like in Varsity Blues when Bud Kilmer wouldn't let the running back score? Shooter was always the one who had to score the touchdowns. Do you think that's what Peyton Manning does?
Oh, yeah, that could.
Like he wanted Lance Harbor to throw the touchdown passes, and then after that, mocks.
Yeah.
I feel like that's Peyton Manning's game plan.
He's got the Omahas. He's got plenty of Omahas to take care of. And if that means running the ball, he's not going to do it.
God forbid he threw No-Shot Moreno a touchdown.
Yeah.
Or just let him carry one in, just to boost his confidence.
Yep.
Selfish.
No.
By the way, I don't believe any of this stuff. I'm just trying to get the Pats Broncos.
I was
going.
worried because you whenever you're too confident, that was the first time you were overly confident with the Patriots in a big game, and they won in a long time.
With the Colts,
yeah.
I just didn't think the Colts. They shouldn't have beaten the Chiefs.
Yeah.
My thing is like if the Pats go down in the playoffs, it's usually going to be against a really physical defense that knocks them around and manhandles them.
Yeah.
And that was not the Colts, and it might not be the Broncos either.
Right.
I think the Seahawks and the Niners both have the types of teams that have given the Patriots just a crap load of trouble in the playoffs over the last 8-9 years.
All right, well, so let's go to that game. That's 6:30 Eastern. Am I right? San Fran at Seattle. I said 4. You said 2.5. Favor Seattle. Mm-hmm. It opened at 3 and 3.5, right around there. It settled at 3.5, so I get it. I win the week.
It's 3.5?
3.5.
I'm surprised by that.
Do you think it should be lower?
Yeah, I think San Francisco's a better team, and I thought it was going to be 3 points, and I thought Vegas would throw them a half point.
It's just such a tough place to win. I know. I hate it. It should come down to who's better at this point. It absolutely should, but it's ridiculous how hard they make it to win there. So
so Kaepernick's probably worth an extra point there. Maybe Vegas just doesn't trust him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I trust him. Do you agree? I wrote on Friday that he's this year's winner of the you don't feel good whether you bet on him or against him.
Definitely.
You're scared either way.
But I think the quarterback that's lost the most trust in the last month is your boy, Russell Hustle Bustle Man Muscle. 9 completions.
Nobody's open. You're watching the games. Who's open? What open receiver did he miss?
I did lose my bet, Percy Harvin to finish the game at 250 to 1 odds. I really thought that was a lock.
Poor Percy Harvin. Should have just taken the year off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, they don't have their 2 starting receivers from August, or that they thought were going to be this year, Sidney Rice, Percy Harvin. They have Doug Baldwin, Golden Tate, Jermaine Kearse, Zach Miller. It's the worst receiving core in the playoffs that's left.
Can I say something about Doug Baldwin? He makes a big catch on 3rd and 3, and then there was scoring after that. This is leading up to Marshawn Lynch. Big play on 3rd and 3. He gets his helmet knocked off in the process.
Yep.
So now he's got no helmet on. He's got a big first down. The crowd is going crazy. You have to mug for the camera. This is a gift you're given. Normally you're thrown out of the league if you take your helmet off, but because it was knocked off accidentally, now everyone sees what you look like, and you need to be posing like a GQ model on the field, not just shake it off and drop the ball back to the referee.
I'll tell you who doesn't feel that way is your hero, Troy Aikman.
He doesn't like that, right?
Too much yapping for his
He
liking.
had a lot to say. He really did.
You're exactly right, Sal. That's what he said most of the time. I will say this. I thought Burkhardt and Lynch were phenomenal.
You like them, right?
I really like them. I thought that was one of the best called football games I've heard in a while. I thought Burkhardt's just terrific. He's one of the best young guys out there. Mm-hmm. And Lynch is good. Lynch has good points. He says stuff. I like the things that he said.
They were good. I
really enjoyed them.
You were very nervous with Deerdorf calling the Patriots last
I really
game.
Was.
I was about to look up Burkhardt's record, calling a Saints record with Burkhardt calling a game. I'm like, no, this is stupid. It's gonna be like 3-2 or something.
Deerdorf had the classic. I mean, God bless him. Yeah. He had a great career, and I think Pats fans are always gonna have a little animosity toward him for reasons that probably aren't totally his fault. But when he was talking about how happy LeGarrette Blount was making fantasy owners, it's time to go. It's week 19, Dan Deerdorf. There are no fantasy leagues going right now. What are you talking about? It's like, fantasy owners have to be happy with that day. Yeah, sure, if it was week 8.
Right.
Anyway,
good luck to him. It's not like Gumbel was correcting him or anybody. Yeah.
No, it's Richard Deitch wrote that it's time for Iron Eagle and Dan Fouts, and I agree.
Yeah.
Bring those guys in. Those
two, they're the best announced team since Saving Private Ryan, I would say.
No question.
Throw in there.
No question. Best, most extraordinary. Did you watch Golden Globes?
Yeah, I did.
Golden Globes?
I did.
I gotta be honest. I'm obviously, I remember seeing The Deep in the theater in the mid '70s, and Jackie Bissett in the white T-shirt. I didn't totally understand what was going on because I was probably 7 or 8, but I remember pocketing it away and thinking someday this is going to be a magical moment for me. I don't know why.
Really?
But it was great to see her like in her mid 60s, maybe.
Yeah.
Still looking good, nice, and seemed like she was
wearing her head off.
And it was great. She
Diane
was so
Keaton
good.
Lost her mind a little bit. It was nice.
That was good. The Mia Farrow and her son took some Woody Allen shots on Twitter.
Oh boy. You love that. I couldn't. I don't think we've talked about this, but you like that American Hustle. I hated it. I really did. I thought it was an absurd movie.
No, you're misrepresenting my thoughts.
What happened?
I thought the performances were outstanding. I thought it was an exceptionally well done movie, but it's like every other movie that guy makes. It's just like a series of awesome scenes, but as a whole, like you're kind of not sure what happened. That's how I felt about the last movie.
I think the character.
With Bradley Cooper.
And Bradley Cooper, I think you can only be so good if you're stuck playing a character that's absurd. And that's Bradley Cooper. And I think Jennifer Lawrence, I think you got wooed by all the side boob shots. I really think you
those
did there,
Those were tremendous. No, those were tremendous.
I don't know.
There's a lot of boobs flying around in that movie.
Well, you have to get Brad. You have to get Mad Brad on there to talk about this movie because he does a good 7 minutes on how much he hates it. But I think we're the only two.
Well, but you have to admit it was like well acted, and it was really well done.
Well, first of all, he's a schlub. He's not gonna. Who's gonna believe this guy? This schlubby. He doesn't even look successful. Christian Bale, like even for the 70s, 80s, Long Island Jew, which I'm half of. I don't know. No one's going to believe this guy. So you just give him your money and there's no return. You don't even get a little back, whatever. Okay, so
it's the 70s. You can't judge.
Well, then you can't judge. And then he sets aside. Now, who are they getting? Who's the bad guy? Who are they trying to set up? Some of the nameless investors are going to sign on with this sheik? Like, who cares? What are the stakes? I don't know. And De Niro's never looked older.
It was an incoherent movie, and I enjoyed everything. And then I couldn't have told you what happened. Right. It was like when you read those books in high school, those complicated, English class books, and you don't know what happened, but the writing was really good.
Yeah. But you admit it was nowhere close to Saving Private Ryan.
No, it wasn't even close. Saving Private Ryan was the most extraordinary war movie in the last 15 years.
Saving Private Ryan, yeah.
Did you see what did really well this weekend?
What did?
Lone Survivor.
Oh, there you go.
Almost $40 million in box office this weekend.
I have to see it. I forgot Tim Riggins is back. I think you're right.
And I would be lying if I said that didn't color my take on the movie by at least 25%.
I love it. I gotta go see that.
Golden Globes. The other thing that I like is when they split it up with comedy and drama is hysterical.
Yeah.
Wolf of Wall Street is a comedy.
Right. Yeah,
I mean, Leo at least called it out and talked about, he thanked the other comedians in his category, like kind of tongue in cheek, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, that was good. I liked it. My favorite part is when they come back from from commercial. And everyone is still stirring in their seat or getting back to their seats or just not paying attention. And you can see the presenter has to go on, and it's so loud. And you know he wants to tell everyone to sit down, but he's got to move on and read the teleprompter. So
it's a great award show. Did our cousin go?
No, I don't think he went. Oh, there's no late night, Fallon, obviously, because NBC was involved with presenting, but there's no late night category.
Well, the late night wars are upon us.
They are. And this week we have Kevin Costner tonight, Harry Connick Jr., and then later in the week on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Matt LeBlanc, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Chris Pine. And on my Grantland blog, I had a few winners. I gave out my last losing 3-team teaser. Thank God that's over with. I'll have more for you Friday afternoon. And what promises to be my best blog since Saving Private Ryan.
Did you see True Detective?
No, I didn't. Oh, people like that. Is it good?
I'm still sorting out my feelings.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to talk to Greenwald about it on a podcast.
I watched 2 girls in an episode of episodes with the old lady last night. So
you did a double Girls.
Yeah.
Girls is now the new Sex in the City in this respect. The wives or your girlfriend or whoever will always defend whatever happened in the episode as being a good episode. I really feel like nothing could happen for a solid half hour, and my wife would be like, no, that was a good one.
Exactly right.
They just don't care. Whatever happens, they're signing off on. Yeah. At least in my house. Yeah.
Is your wife more of a Shoshana or a Jessa?
We're all about Jessa in this house. They could get rid of Shoshana pretty easily.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know what she brings to the table.
No, I know. Well, they're all good friends.
I love Jessa. Like, Jessa could be spun off. My whole thing with a great TV character is if you could spin them off into another show, would you follow them to that show?
Interesting.
I would follow Jessa.
You'd follow Jessa. She's so lost out of all of them. She's the most despicable.
I think she's the most extraordinary TV character since
there you go.
Right. Because, as always, good job by you.
Good job by you, Billy. We'll talk
to you next week. All right.
All right, buddy. Bye.
All right, we're going to call my buddy Gus, who's a diehard Broncos fan. It's not often that our teams meet in the playoffs, but before that, I wanted to mention Stamps.com, our sponsor. Why go to the post office? You can have a post office from your house. Go to Stamps.com, put BS into the little thing in the top right that allows you to join Stamps.com, get a whole bunch of free stuff. You can get free postage, a scale, all kinds of stuff. Check it out, Stamps.com. Never go to the post office again. Print everything out on your own. That's what we do in the Simmons house. And now, my buddy Gus.
I think we need to start right away by addressing what A-Rod would call the pink elephant in the room. This is the most significant sporting matchup pitting our teams since the Mets-Red Sox World Series.
Oh, that's interesting. The stakes were higher in '86, though.
I didn't say it was the most. I just since then, of course, the World Series is a World Series, and there was a lot at stake for both franchises. But since that time, obviously the Mets and Red Sox have not played in the World Series, and there have been 2 Broncos-Patriots playoff games. And they were both in the divisional round.
Yeah. I see. 05 was pretty good, though, because we were going for the three-peat. And you had Jake Plummer, and I was feeling overconfident. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, but again, it was a divisional round game. This isn't Brady Manning, winner goes to the Super Bowl and maybe adds to their legacies. And there's a lot at stake in this game.
How nervous were you on a scale of 1 to 10 on 3rd and 17 yesterday?
12.
Manning came up big. It was a great throw.
It was a great throw, and right when he threw it, I almost the way it came out of his hand almost looked like it got his elbow got hit, or it just looked weird out of his hand. And then Thomas made a great catch, but there wasn't a Bronco fan alive who wasn't thinking, "Oh God, this is going to happen again." And then when they got to the 3rd and 7, and I was stunned that Nance and Sims weren't making any kind of a deal out of it. Like, they were in this exact spot a year ago, and they ran the ball 3 times. Let's see if they throw it this time.
Right, against the Ravens. Good point.
It was basically identical. You're coming up. You're right around the 2-minute warning. Last year was third and 6. This year was 3rd and 7. You brought Peyton Manning in for this moment, so he can throw the ball to somebody, not to hand it off to Ronnie Hillman.
When did Chris Harris get hurt?
Early 3rd quarter, which also they never talked about on the broadcast. But yeah,
see, I watched the whole game and didn't know he was hurt.
When all of a sudden Quentin Jammer was covering Keenan Allen, and I'm like, why is Quentin Jammer on Keenan Allen right now?
My dad, I watched all the games with my dad, and when Quentin Jammer made his unexpected cameo, both of us were perplexed, and I was like, wait, I thought they had Rodgers, Cromartie, Bailey, and Chris Harris. Why is Quentin Jammer defending receivers? I don't understand this.
Yeah,
Never explained.
Other than Cromartie and Knighton, Harris has been the best defensive player they've had all season. So that's a huge loss for them.
Because, part of me thinks, Sal and I just talked about that I didn't like San Diego's game plan yesterday, and my dad didn't either. It just seemed like, in retrospect, if you had reset button, do that game over again, if you're the Chargers, you just come out winging the ball and pushing the pace and maybe doing it that way versus what they tried to do with Ryan Matthews, who clearly wasn't feeling that well.
Or you hit the reset button and tell your offensive coordinator he's going to interview with the 3 teams and want to talk to him after the game.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea either. Well, he certainly didn't help his cause in that game.
No, I didn't think so.
Yeah, Keenan Allen just seemed like he got open a lot. I might have pursued that for 4 quarters.
All of a sudden. Well, again, it's different when Harris and Cromartie are out there because in the first drive they wanted to throw the ball and he got sacked twice. So,
yeah, that's a good point.
The times early on that they did look to throw, no one was getting open.
I thought the tight end, the backup Antonio Gates 2.0 possible dude was going to hurt you in that game. Webb. What was his name? Is that his name? Ladarius Green?
No, Ladarius Webb's the guy in the Ravens. Yeah.
Yeah. Ladarius Green?
Yeah, tight ends always seem to give us trouble. So, but, honestly, one of the biggest plays of the game, and there's always a dozen you can point at, but Broncos' first drive, Manning takes the deep shot down the seam to Welker and hits the safety right between the numbers.
Yep.
And he lays it on the ground, and then Denver goes down and gets a touchdown. If that's a pick, collectively in the stadium, there's probably a good number of people it's definitely taken the air out of the balloon a little bit and puts a little doubt maybe in Peyton's mind. Not much, but enough that, certainly it has maybe a different feel at that point. But
yeah, I was thinking about, when somebody builds up a playoff resume and you go and you look through their stats, you'd be like, oh, this happened in this game, this happened in this game. Like Drew Brees ended up throwing for 300 yards Saturday, right?
Yep.
But 52 of them came on the play that should have been intercepted, got tipped, and the guy caught it, and it basically, reinvented themselves for 20 minutes in that game.
Right.
It feels like there should be some way to keep track of those plays over the course of history. Like dropped interceptions should be part of the box score or something.
Sure. And conversely, if you go back and look at games that Peyton's played in the playoffs, who knows how many were balls that should have been caught that ended up like the one Luck threw. Yes, it was on the guy's back shoulder, but takes a bad bounce. Even the one pick that Manning did throw, you can question whether they should have tried to squeeze it in there or not and just take the field goal and you're up 17 at the half. But it takes a weird bounce. The guy makes a great play, and it wasn't an awful throw.
No.
He put it right where he had to put it. A bad break.
Team interception should be a stat. That Luck pass you talked about, that shouldn't just go on Luck's record. The receiver should be involved.
Sure, like there should be team errors in baseball.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
I went back and I watched the first game again this morning. And
the first Pats Broncos game?
Yeah, from this year. And
you didn't erase that from your DVR angrily?
That's not on my DVR. I watched it on the NFL Game Rewind.
Oh, wow. You went hardcore.
Oh, yeah. I like to look at the All-22 and all that stuff.
Oh, my God.
I just think that this game is going to play so much differently. That the weather in that Week 12 game, between the wind and the cold, there were 11 fumbles in that game. There were 14 punts, and on deep passes, Manning and Brady combined to go 1 for 11. It's going to be 50 degrees on Sunday, very little wind. I think the game is going to play a lot differently. Blunt only had 2 carries in that game for you guys. He's going to get 25 this game. Julius Thomas didn't play for us. Cromartie left after the half. Champ didn't play. It's just, I don't know how much we can take from that first game that's going to really matter in this game.
Yeah, I'm not even thinking about that game because we have a totally different team. Belichick just shook the snow globe.
Yeah.
Created this team that has no resemblance to the team from the week 9 to week 12 range. And,
yeah, that was probably, I mean, Gronk was a monster in that game, and Von Miller had his best game of the year. Neither one of those guys going to be on the field. Or
Chris Harris. We don't have spikes, but Jamie Collins was terrific on Saturday. Maybe that's actually better for us.
It really is between the two teams, the guys that they've lost. So it's almost like the scene in Jaws when they're comparing scars.
Right.
Hey, what's that on your leg? Oh, that's where our head coach had a heart attack and almost died, and we lost him for a month. What's that on your arm? Oh, that's our all-world tight end who can't stay on the field and broke his forearm and now tore something, and it's just ridiculous.
What do you Sal asked me if what do you think Fox is rooting for the Super Bowl matchup? And I said the number one choice would be Denver, San Francisco. What do you think?
Man, it's hard to vote against Brady getting his fourth and putting himself into that echelon. San Francisco is probably a little sexier than Seattle to America. Here's the thing that I find really interesting is that regardless of who wins this weekend, you are going to have a legendary quarterback going against an all-world defense.
Right.
Either way, that matchup, that storyline is the number one storyline of the game and will be really, really interesting. But I think they probably prefer San Fran over Seattle and be thrilled with either. I mean, they're already doing cartwheels.
I agree with that. San Fran versus anybody is their dream scenario. Seattle, I guess they could just pimp Russell Wilson for 2 straight weeks and play that up and turn him into a mega star.
And Lynch, and you can sell that secondary. Sherman's a great talker. They're very entertaining, and there's all kinds of great storylines with Seattle. I mean, if you get Seattle, New England, then you got Carroll against his old team.
Yeah.
You get, one little secret advantage you guys have if you get there is you play in that stadium once a year, often in inclement weather.
Yep. Well, then that's the other weird part. If Denver makes it, Manning going into his brother's stadium 2 years after his brother went into his old stadium,
right,
and won it. And then, Eli probably from the Giants suite pretending that he's rooting for Peyton when secretly he wants to have one more Super Bowl title. But it's going to be interesting. Hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous does John Fox make you?
2.
Oh, much lower than I expected.
Yeah, no, I think he learned a lot from last year. I think Peyton's brought him out. I mean, I don't know. I don't look at a head coach for a football team the way I do a manager for a baseball team. I think a manager in baseball is far more apt to screw something up, other than like a really stupid challenge or clock management. Like I don't think he's bad in those areas, and in part because Peyton Manning's, when you got a good quarterback, a lot of that stuff gets negated anyway. But
right. Omaha Hut.
By the way, that was an undersold big part of the game yesterday.
Omaha?
Well, clearly McCoy had told his team, look, after Manning says Omaha, more often than not, he goes on first sound after that because they jumped offside 5 times, every one of them on a one after Omaha. I mean, the linemen were already like sticking out their hands. They knew it was coming. So I think that was one of the things that Peyton did yesterday to adjust, besides moving the pocket around a little bit.
Yeah, I forgot to put this joke in my column on Friday that when I thought McCoy might have been like if somebody knows some of the cheat codes in Madden with Manning.
Right, but then all of a sudden he played a guy who would change the codes.
Yeah, and then the guy's like, no, actually I have some different codes though. I kind of knew you would know what the codes are.
Yeah.
But so were you okay with the line? The line started at 7 and has now dropped to 5.
That's absurd. I can't make a case for why the Broncos, if they win, would win by more than a field goal. Again, what I did see from the first game that I think matters is, and Belichick does this all the time, his DBs will be physical. You have one of the most physical DBs in the league in Talib, who in the first game was all over Demaryius Thomas and will be again. Our receivers in general don't do a good job of getting separation when they are being pushed around. I mean, I don't know if there's a team in the league that falls down and throws their hands up looking for pass interference more than our team. So that's important. And clearly the strategy, though not executed well by the Chargers yesterday, is run the ball and keep Peyton off the field. And your running game is excellent right now. So I don't, how anyone think that would be more than a touchdown game. I don't get that at all.
We have the two receivers, Edelman and Amendola. Amendola's playing with like a partially torn groin muscle. And then after that, your guess is as good as mine for receiver number 3. So that's a little dicey.
Yeah, so the Harris injury is kind of negated by that because you only have so many guys. I mean, Gronk kills everybody, but the Broncos never had an answer for him. He was always my number one concern.
Yeah.
So I think you're just going to pound the rock, and we lost one of our 2 starting defensive tackles earlier in the year, so we're okay there, but not great. It's funny. I think a lot of the game is not going to be Manning and Brady. I would expect the Patriots' focus is to run the ball. Clearly, Denver ran all over the Patriots the game in New England, and now you're down Spikes and some other guys. So,
you know what? Barnwell had something in his column on Friday about the Patriots' defense this year versus the defense when we made the Super Bowl a couple years ago. By the way, Gus and I say we when we talk about our teams. If you have a problem with that, I don't know what to tell you.
Hey,
listen to another podcast.
Given the time and money and emotional investment we've made with our teams over the years, I am 100% on board with saying we.
Yeah. I'm part of the team. I don't know if you guys realize that. But our defense, when we played the Giants the second time, it was even more of a cast of no names. At least this time we have 2 cornerbacks that I'm okay with. Talib is good. Alfonso's pretty good, the last time around, McCourty was our number 1 cornerback, and we had Vince Wilfork, and that was it. I mean, the big difference this time around is not having Vince. But Belichick, it just doesn't matter with him. Right. He's always going to have a relatively competent defense. The one time when we passed the point of no return was in 2006. When, Troy Brown's playing nickelback and the defense was old anyway, and Peyton just ripped through them in the second half. Do you feel like if Manning loses this game and only, who knows with him a year from now? This might be the last chance. And then he goes down 1 Super Bowl. He goes down as the greatest regular season quarterback ever. But then, 8, 9 different times was favored in a playoff game at home and didn't come through. Does that change how you think about him?
I don't know how it changes anything. I think I'm kind of on board with most people. I mean, it's funny. He's won 1 and he's lost 1, which is what Brett Favre did, right?
Yep.
No, Favre's playoff record is over 500, but I think he's 13 and 10 or something like that, Favre. So,
yeah,
you take a team to 2 Super Bowls. I don't know why that makes you a bad quarterback. I get it, 8 one and dones. It's more often than not as a favorite. Some of those games he stunk. Some of those games he played fine.
A couple of them he played well, and the team let him down. Do you think playoff bias should count as part of the playoff record? You can make a case that it should.
Say that again?
That playoff buys should be incorporated into playoff records.
Like what you did when you had a bye?
No, Brady's 18-7 in the playoffs, but he also had 6 playoff buys.
Right. Oh, I see what you're saying.
So really, it's basically 24 wins.
Yeah, because they earned it.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be. I saw today their first road playoff game since 2006.
Yeah, Colts at Indy.
I mean that's pretty incredible.
Well,
but
for me,
to go back to your question, when you're having the all-time great discussion, and I know you put Montana and Elway 1-2, like he's in that next level of guys. He's not on the Mount Rushmore because of his postseason play.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I think that's just the way the world works when it comes to NFL quarterbacks. You know, they're having that discussion pregame yesterday on CBS, and Dan Marino sitting on that set going, I got nothing to say. I didn't win one.
Right.
You know, we got there once. You know, it's just.
And I do think the thing with Manning and Breeze to a lesser extent is the indoors thing is such a huge factor that people don't factor in when they just are trotting out the stats. I think Manning's played something like 130 indoor games, something like that. And I know this is amazing. Brady's number might be under 20 for indoor games in his entire career.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like you saw it this week in Seattle. It's when the weather starts to get a little wonky, it just gets harder to put up stats. Manning did a good job of it in this year, obviously, with Denver. But, you know, I do think the indoor-outdoor thing doesn't somebody should do some sort of awesome giant treatment about how just what kind of an impact that has on somebody's stats. And maybe it's not that much, but I just think it would be easier to play indoors than it would be to have to deal with elements week after week.
The other great thing about both Brady and Manning is both guys understand that there are ways to win a football game that don't involve them throwing the ball.
Right.
Like Brady didn't throw a touchdown pass this week. Manning was relatively conservative in their approach because they knew running the ball was the way to get there. They're not so egotistical that they have to say, we're putting this on my back, fellas. Now, Brady certainly can make more of a case as to why he would want to, given his playoff history. But still, I think it takes something for an all-world quarterback to turn around and go, here you go, 27. Run that straight ahead for a little bit. And I know game plans are game plans, but there are certainly, we've seen more than our fair share of quarterbacks over the year, like Favre, who at times just go, I got to make something happen here. Watch me run around and throw stuff up and whatever.
I think Manning was a little guilty of that in Indianapolis.
A little. But I think that's why that this game is going to be so intriguing, because I think both quarterbacks would have huge success throwing the ball because both secondaries are banged up and undermanned. But the way both offensive lines are playing so well right now, and the injuries up front for both teams, running the ball, I think, could be a huge, huge part of the game this week.
Your dad emailed me today, the creator of the Pyramid Hall of Fame scheme for baseball, which I've written about a bunch of times. He was saying, what do we do about the Hall of Fame? And we were going back and forth about this whole PED thing and how confused everybody is by it. Actually helps the pyramid thing, because now you build the pyramid, but you put all the PED dudes in the basement. And you go, all right, here, pyramid, climb up. If you don't know this idea, it's in my archives. And then I ended up, my basketball book used the idea for basketball, but you rank all the guys by levels. So like 5 levels in all, the 5th level's the highest. It's shaped like a pyramid. The higher you go, the better the guy is. So in level 5 would be like Babe Ruth and people like that. You put the PED guys in the basement. They're still in the Hall of Fame. You can't say they're not in there, but now you have to go downstairs to go get them. It's dark down there.
Do they have to have been convicted, for lack of a better term, in some way, like they were suspended?
It's all the people who are in disgrace or ill repute. So that, like, Ty Cobb goes down there. I think he's down there.
Right, but what about,
I think Gaylord Perry's down there because he's an admitted spitball dude.
But what about the Bagwells and the Piazzas of the world who people suspect, but they've never been mentioned in anything significant, never suspended?
You know how I feel about this. I mean, I've been writing about this for 7 years. I think everybody should be in. It was the era. Everyone was cheating, you know, and we don't even know if those guys were cheating or not. The whole thing is so stupid to me. I just can't believe we're gonna have a baseball Hall of Fame that doesn't have Barry Bonds in it. It's just
what I found hypocritical this year is, in a year that guys aren't voting for Mark McGwire, everyone was happy that Tony La Russa got in.
Right.
The man managed the Bash Brothers, and then McGwire again in St. Louis. Like, to think that he didn't know anything and couldn't have done more. You know, there are people who didn't vote for Maddox and Glavine because they thought they could have done more to stop steroids back in the day.
The retroactive thing is really funny to me. And it does seem like there's this weird residual guilt that, especially with the writers, we didn't know. I should have known. How did we not know?
Yeah.
Well, why aren't we asking that now with the other sports? What about basketball? Go watch it. Go on YouTube and watch a basketball game from 1977 and see what the guys look like. You really think there are no PED guys in the NBA right now? You'd be kidding me. And it's just funny to me. You know, if we end up repeating this whole cycle with the NBA, everybody's gonna be like, oh, how do we not know? Blah, blah, blah. It's like the same thing we were going through in baseball in the late 90s. I went to the home run derby. I sat in left field in Fenway watching balls hit the Bass Pike and never suspected anything. It was like, wow, they must have really jacked up these balls.
Yeah, that's what everybody said.
I had no idea. I was a moron.
What everybody said. They wound these balls tighter so they'll travel further. I
just don't understand how you have one of the last under 15-year-olds in America who likes baseball, your son Jack.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you take Jack to the Hall of Fame and Bonds and Clemens aren't going to be in there.
Because
it's the dumbest thing ever.
Because I don't mind having the conversation with them explaining why they're not. Because the Hall of Fame is in large part because of sportsmanship and character and achievement on its merits, not on.
It's one sentence.
It could be interpreted any way you want. I would much rather explain to Jack why somebody isn't in than why they are in anyway. But didn't he do that? Didn't he cheat? Yep. But we're still patting him on the back for a great career.
No, because it's on his plaque that he was a cheater. And then instead you're having the conversation in the Hall of Fame, and your son says, "Hey, Dad, why are we in the basement right now? Why is it so dark?"
Oh yeah, if we're putting him in the basement,
why does it feel like we're in the gates of hell?
If we're putting him in the basement and you literally have to walk through gates that are really, really hot to get in there,
yeah,
then I'm on board. I will say this: that every time I hear someone make a point about this topic, I always go, "Well, that makes sense. Hey, that's right. That's true." I mean, I'm the biggest flopper on this topic probably in America.
It's a museum.
It's more than that, though.
It's really not, though. It's a museum.
A wax museum is a museum. Look at the people who got in on their own merits and what it means to them. And as someone who went up there for 7 straight years to produce the induction ceremonies and went into the Hall of Fame on the Friday night of that weekend with every living Hall of Famer who came back in that room, standing in front of their plaques, like it is the crowning achievement of their lifetime, and it never gets old for them. They sit in there and they argue with each other about whose plaque section is better.
Right.
It is the crowning achievement of these people's life, and they take it so seriously, and they know the work that they put into it. It would be such an offense to them to have any recognition of somebody who did something illegal to join them. That it's a huge insult to them to go, yeah, we know Barry did this, but it's a museum, so he needs to be in here too. Like that to me is my number one reason for not allowing it, is because of the people who are there. And again, look, someone can go, well, what if Piazza gets in? We know he did it. Well, we don't know he did it. I get it. We don't know
he did anything.
We don't know what anybody did any time. But the people we do know Rafael Palmeiro did it.
What if Bonds was in the basement and wasn't allowed to give a speech, and it said on his plaque that he cheated?
If that was the only thing it said on his plaque.
No, he'd have to put his numbers and stuff.
Why?
Because he was the best left fielder I've ever seen in my life.
Those are inflated numbers.
Not from 85 to 98.
You're only going to put on the numbers that were legit?
Just from 85 to 98, this guy was amazing.
All right, speaking of drugs, what is a guy named Blunt capable of doing in Denver, by the way? Just pointing that out.
Speaking of drugs, because he's a Blunt and Denver pot's legal.
Yes, thank you for connecting the dots.
I didn't know if you were going PED there, and then I was like, I don't even know if I could defend the PED joke here, because all of a sudden he's out of his mind.
I was trying to get us back to the Broncos game, because all the Broncos fans who are listening to this are like, why are they talking about Baseball Hall of Fame? How about this? Did you know for you?
You and I have spent more time talking about the Baseball Hall of Fame than anyone else I know.
I know. The starting linebacker for the Broncos, Paris Lennon, is the last player to have played in the XFL currently in the NFL.
I said this to a couple people I was watching the game with on Saturday night. When they have those, like they were doing it during the Seattle San Francisco game, they were really using the cameras on the field well. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
And I was saying to my dad, this is Vince McMahon's legacy right here.
It really is.
It really
beyond
is.
Beyond the wrestling.
Well, no, beyond. No, I would say it's even beyond the wrestling. It's even bigger than the wrestling. Without Vince, we're not on the field during America's pastime, football. We're still like or maybe at some point, maybe somebody comes up with the idea. I don't know.
Maybe.
They don't do it in basketball. Well, they do it now in basketball, but they weren't doing it for a long time.
Over the arena, yeah. No, but that's him. So for anyone wants to make jokes about the XFL, that is pretty amazing that there's a guy from that league who's still hanging around.
That is amazing.
It's
also amazing you can buy a Rod Smart He Hate Me jersey for $39.99 if you Google hard enough.
I've always said that because guys can put whatever they wanted on the back of their jerseys in the XFL, that Tommy Maddox should have gone with Elway. That's what he was supposed to be.
I forgot that Tommy Maddox was in there.
He was the MVP.
I may or may not have bet on one of those games.
We had a whole league of it. We did the pick league that 1 year for the XFL, where instead of the double down, you had to triple down on a game.
I totally forgot that.
Yes, we did. That's what degenerates we are. Hey, you want to do a pick league on the XFL? Sure. We had like 15, 16 guys in it.
It was a great league. It should have. I've wanted to do a 30 for 30 about it for years, and the problem is Vince owns all the rights, and he's impossible to deal with. Yeah. Oh, by the way, the WWE channel is launching soon, and the Simmons family is very excited about this.
I think many families are very excited about it.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
It's
very, very pumped.
Another example of Vince being out in the forefront and breaking open new frontiers. It's pretty cool.
What do they need? Like 8? They need 800,000 subscribers or something, and it works. That was the number I saw.
Yeah, and I'm sure they have lots of different ways to offset it. In the beginning, and over time it'll catch on. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't get it. And I see, you get it, you have to have it for the 6 months. But if you're a real fan, between all the archival video and then all the money you're going to save on the pay-per-views, as I've said to you before, I think I qualify 4 majors in the wrestling pay-per-views that I'm 100% going to buy. And then depending on the card, there's maybe 1 or 2 more that I will buy during the year. Now that you're going to get them all for $120, you get 2 pay-per-views for $120 right now. So how is that not a bargain?
I'm even more excited for the Royal Rumble than ever because my son has never seen a Royal Rumble before, and he's been scouting them on YouTube. But it really combines everything he loves about wrestling. Is just basically who's coming out and the first few sounds of whatever entrance song it is.
Yeah. And
to get that 30 times in the span of an hour, I really feel like I have to monitor his sugar take beforehand because I don't want him to have a heart attack.
Last
it's
week,
going to be the most exciting moment of his life.
I asked my 5-year-old Matthew if we had a time machine, where would we go? And he said to the first Royal Rumble.
In '88, which we watched on YouTube recently.
Won by Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
But the last 2 are Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Dino Bravo. Not a great job by the writers on that one.
No. No, I do. I have the Royal Rumble pool every year that people get involved with on Twitter. And Jim Ross contributed a prize last year, and I think this year I will. I think last year I did it too. I just allow people to pick the WWE DVD of their choice, and I think it's the best pay-per-view of the year. As fun as WrestleMania is.
No, it's the best one. It's not only the best one, but one of the best gambling experiences you can have if you're in college.
Yeah.
If you get 10 of you, all you need is 10. Everybody gets 3 numbers out of the hat, and whatever person's number wins. There you go. Everybody throws in $20, $200 total. Can't lose. I can't lose gambling experience. I rarely guarantee your satisfaction, but this is one of those times.
Speaking of bets, if it was a prop bet, Welker drops a big pass or Amendola gets hurt.
Oh, interesting. Amendola will be favored. by like minus 140. I would take the Welker drop. How many do you have yesterday? 2?
Maybe, but the one big one down on the goal line.
The Kazoo helmet wasn't helping him. Mark Kelso was who had it? Mark Kelso or Don Beebe? It was Kelso, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was eerily similar to the one he dropped in the Super Bowl. Just he had to adjust his body in the air and couldn't pull it in.
You mean the one I say every time I fall asleep at night? That one?
That's the one.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what one you're talking about. Yeah.
Now, what's the other interesting thing about this game from the fans' perspective is when you go into a Patriot playoff game, 99% of the time you're expecting victory, right?
No, not anymore. I thought we were going to win on Saturday.
When did that change?
Probably probably when we lost Moss. It's just really hard in these playoff games when it gets more physical and teams know exactly what you're doing. They spend so much time preparing for you. It's really tough to score with the offense that the Patriots run, which is one of the reasons why this running attack is such an interesting wrinkle. But you know that the dink and dunk short stuff when you're not getting the long passes, and our long pass guys were the tight ends, you know, and now it's like basically we don't have any deep threats whatsoever unless Aaron Dobson miraculously comes back. But
Deion Branch is available. Maybe can bring him back.
It's tough, but yeah, it's been a while. The last time I was absolutely stunned that we didn't win a playoff game, though, was one of those Jets games.
Right.
I can't remember what year it was, but there was one of them where it was like Mark Sanchez in Foxborough. Like you're not even thinking that they might lose the game.
It's funny though, because again, I don't live in Denver, so I can't speak for the Denver fan base other than interaction with people on Twitter. But my sense is that the majority of the time, the Patriot fan base going into a playoff game is expecting a win, and the Bronco fan base is, if nothing else, just kind of holding their breath and hoping things work out. Like I was glad there was so much pro-Charger talk this week. And
yeah, that was good for you.
As soon as you texted me that you're scared of Phillip Rivers, I was like, good. I hope everybody is so excited about what the Chargers did the last game that Peyton Manning somehow wasn't going to make adjustments, and all the experts were like, oh, this is going to be a great game, and San Diego's got a real chance. And I suppose maybe if they'd done something different, they might have. But that actually made me a little bit less nervous. But I would bet that if you took a poll, most Bronco fans will expect, I don't know if they expect to lose, but aren't they're not betting the farm. They're probably not betting too much. The other weird dynamic now for Broncos fans is Peyton Manning. When we had Elway, you had all kinds of confidence, and Super Bowls were Super Bowls. But when he took the field, you're just like, of course we're going to win. We got John Elway. We'll figure it out. He'll make a play. And then he gets steamrolled in the Super Bowl. And when they played the Packers, I think most Broncos fans were just kind of, after the Packers went right down the field and scored that 98 Super Bowl, was like, oh no, not again. But then they won the 2, and you get a little confidence. And now we've kind of regressed. And with Manning last year, you're like, oh, yeah, he's got the reputation, but he's got all these great weapons now, and he's in a new team, and blah, blah, blah. And then you go out and you lose to the Ravens, and you're like, oh, no, maybe there is something about Peyton Manning in the playoffs. Whereas you can still default to go, we got Tom Brady.
I guess. This team reminds me more of the 0-1 team than anything, where it's just kind of overachieving. If you told me we were not going to have Wilfork, Mayo, Gronkowski, and Hernandez in April, I just would have said no way. It's just impossible.
Yeah, I mean, that's the amazing thing about these two teams. I mean, after Brady, you would probably, and we'll throw Hernandez out of the mix.
You can't, though, because that happened in June. Our whole offense was built around those two tight ends. Every decision that was made with this team was centered around those two tight ends and the fact that we had Wilfork in the middle to stuff the run.
Right. Well,
everything's centered around those two things in Brady.
Okay, but from the time the season started, if you were to power rank the players on your team,
right,
after Brady, it's probably some form of Gronk, Wilfork, and Mayo, right?
Yeah, it would have been Wilfork, the Gronk-Hernandez combo, and then probably Mayo.
Right, and all those guys are gone.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And the Broncos are down now with the Harris injury. I think Miller.
You lost Ryan Clady.
Right. And on the Broncos, you would have said Miller's probably 2, Clady's probably 3. I'm not sure where Champ would have fit into the mix.
Well, Champ's old, though. I mean, he knew at some point.
Raheem Moore was playing great safety this year before he got hurt. Chris Harris, as I said, was playing great. I mean,
don't you think this is – we have to go, but don't you think this is football now in 2014 where you just like you start out with your team and then you just kind of realize that by the end of the playoffs you're going to have 65% of the guys you were counting on?
This entire season I spent just hoping every time Peyton got hit, he got up. I've never remembered a season where injuries took so much joy out of watching your team play. Imagine if these teams could have lined up with the players who were on the roster in September, the talent that would have been on the field for the game this week.
Yeah, I can't tell if it's a fluke or if it's just where we're going.
Well, you said someone said it to you and you passed it on to me. The idea of a weight limit by position, I think, is an excellent idea.
Yeah. I don't really understand why we wouldn't have it. I don't think human beings are meant to be 400 pounds, 375 pounds. It's amazing to me that the offensive linemen don't fall on each other's legs and break each other's legs like once an hour. Like when I watch football, I'm always amazed that doesn't happen all the time.
That's how Clady got hurt.
Yeah.
Someone rolled up the back of his leg. He got the Liz Frank. That was week 2 against the Giants when they were up like 14 points with 3 minutes to go. Why is the guy even at the game, right? But that's not the way football works. It's not like, he's at 100 pitches. We got to take him out.
All right. Starting around Wednesday, I'll be texting you Rocky Four Lines.
Scale 1 to 10, your confidence?
I'm a 4.5.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty ambivalent.
All right. Well, I had Ivan Drago saying Yuva lose queued up, but I don't want to jinx it. So.
The thing that scares me the most is it just feels like from start to finish it's been Manning's year. And it would be weird to see that at least not carried to the Super Bowl.
I will say that on my blog preseason when I did their game-by-game predictions, I had them losing an AFC title game to the Patriots.
I picked Seattle and New England in the Super Bowl, which might be the only thing I was right about all season. Before we go, we got to plug your brother's book because you don't have anything to plug, so we're going to plug your brother's book.
Yeah, I can only plug my Royal Rumble pool coming up on my Twitter account. My brother Jim Ramsey wrote a book called Post Road Promises about life in Greenwich in 1979. It's a bit of a mystery/action adventure piece. If you're from the Greenwich area, you will really enjoy it. There's a lot of very vivid detail about the town and what it was like back then. But for anybody, it's a good read. It's available on Amazon.com.
There you go. So we did plug something.
Yeah,
my buddy Gus, as always, a pleasure. I'll be texting you all week. Take care.
Looking forward to it.
Target% off. Whoa.
Thank you for downloading the B.S. Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNRadio.com.
Peace out.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.